Right now, literally as we speak, there are folks sitting in their bedrooms, small home offices, and rented apartments who are making more money than most corporate executives. And get this, they're doing it with absolutely no venture capital, no fancy degrees, and definitely no bosses. They aren't doing anything mystical either. They're just making videos, writing posts, recording audio, and building an audience one single piece of content at a time, mostly just using their smartphones. Welcome to our explainer today. We are going to break down exactly how content creation has quietly become one of the absolute most realistic paths to high income in the modern economy.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our architectural blueprint for today. We'll be covering 1, the new wealth paradigm, 2, the 5 income streams, 3, the compounding content effect, 4, building trust in niches, and 5, the realistic timeline.
So, starting off with Section 1, the new wealth paradigm.
To lay our foundation here, we have to recognize how the fundamental rules of wealth generation have completely shifted right under our feet. I mean, think about it. For most of modern history, if you wanted to build wealth, you needed capital. You had to have money to make money, whether that meant buying a storefront, investing in inventory, or building a literal factory. Even if you were a highly skilled professional, you still had to pass through all these gatekeepers and endure years of formal education just to earn the right to make a meaningful income. But the creator era, it totally shattered that model. Today, a single person just needs a smartphone, an internet connection, and consistency. That's really it. You can reach millions of people with absolutely zero permission required. The tools that used to belong exclusively to massive television networks are now sitting right there in your pocket. This didn't just make content creation possible, it made it scalable, with essentially zero barriers to entry. And as we'll see, scale is exactly where high income comes from. Which brings us to Section 2, the 5 income streams. Let's dispel the biggest myth about the creator economy right off the bat. It isn't just a fun little hobby that makes a few extra bucks. High-income creators are actually building a stacked, multi-layered business. They don't just rely on one thing. They layer these 5 structural pillars step by step to create the ultimate leverage. We're talking about platform revenue, brand partnerships, digital products, affiliate income, and an owned business. Let's break down exactly how these pillars stack together to generate the kind of income that, historically, used to require an entire company. When you systematically break these streams down, you really start to see the magic of this leverage. First, you have platform revenue. Think of YouTube paying you a share of ad revenue. It's usually the lowest and least reliable income, but hey, it validates that your audience exists. Second, brand partnerships. Once you have that defined audience, companies will pay you directly for access to them, which moves you into a medium to high earning potential. Third, digital products, things like courses or templates. This is where the income ceiling blows wide open because of high leverage. Fourth is affiliate income, where you're earning completely passive commissions just for recommending products you already use. And finally, the holy grail, an owned business. This is when creators stop relying on outside brands entirely and launch their own product lines or software, utilizing their audience as a built-in customer base. But here is the absolutely crucial game-changing point. Advertisers aren't just paying for eyeballs anymore. They are paying for trust. This literally changes everything. You see, a creator with, say, 50,000 highly engaged, trusting followers in a very specific niche can often completely out-earn a massive viral video with 1 million random disconnected views. It's not about how loud you can shout, it's about who is actually listening and trusting what you have to say. And to really understand the sheer leverage of this business model, just look at these 2 simple numbers, 1,000 versus 10. When a creator builds a digital product, like a course, the cost to produce that product is virtually identical whether they sell it to 10 people or 1,000 people. Actually, scratch that, it's literally the exact same effort. There is almost zero additional cost per sale. That is a level of scale and leverage that traditional 9-to-5 jobs almost never, ever offer.
Moving on to Section 3, the compounding content effect.
This is where we put a compounding roof over our creator architecture. In a traditional job, you trade your time for money, right? You work your shift, you get paid for that shift, and next week, the clock completely resets. If you stop working, the money stops. Boom, done. But content work behaves completely differently. Your effort compounds. When you publish a video or a highly researched blog post today, it can still be found, watched, and monetized 2, 3, or even 5 years from now. You're basically building an income-generating library. A course, once it's built, sells while you sleep. The creators who appear to be making disproportionate amounts of money aren't just getting paid for this month's work. They're still cashing in on the work they did last year and the year before that.
Let's look at Section 4, Building Trust in Niches. Now, because the barrier to entry is almost non-existent today, the actual blueprint for success requires immense specificity. You see, creators who try to appeal to absolutely everyone, they tend to struggle the most. They just blend into the noise. Consistency and specificity will beat broad appeal every single time. Choosing a clear, highly specific niche and serving that audience deeply, that is how you build a fast, incredibly loyal following.
This brilliantly illustrates that exact point. An audience of 10,000 trusted niche followers results in incredibly high earning power. Compare that to an audience 10 times the size, 100,000 random followers, which actually yields significantly lower earning power. This is a fundamental shift in how income works today. Your high income isn't strictly tied to raw numbers or how famous you are. It is tied entirely to how much value you consistently deliver to the people who trust your specific expertise.
And finally, Section 5, the realistic timeline. It's incredibly important we ground ourselves in reality here because, well, the social media highlight reels often conveniently leave this part out. This is not some overnight wealth scheme. Phase 1 often takes months, sometimes even years, of publishing consistently without seeing any meaningful returns. You are basically speaking to an empty room. Phase 2 is the learning phase. This is where you're refining your format, deeply understanding what your audience actually cares about, and figuring out what clicks. Finally, you reach Phase 3, where the compounding kicks in and that high income becomes a reality. The highest earners in the space, they usually aren't the most naturally talented people. They're simply the ones who kept publishing and iterating during that first phase when absolutely nobody was watching. So to summarize the core philosophy of our explainer today, content creation rewards consistency over credentials, and it demands patience over speed. It's not a lottery ticket, and it certainly isn't a guaranteed shortcut to being rich. But it is a structured, entirely accessible path for anyone willing to put in that compounding effort. It's one of the very few paths available today where your income potential isn't artificially capped by a corporate job title, a specific degree, or some company's arbitrary pay scale. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to take away today. If you are willing to show up repeatedly, build something real for a specific audience, and stack those multiple income streams, the ceiling isn't set by a boss anymore. So how far are you willing to take it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.